So a great prospect ahead of us, 18 laps. It's a very wet race, and away they go. Oh, Reynolds and Bayliss very sluggish away from the line. Bayliss got wheel spin. The back end of the Ducati was snaking off the line and heading the posse down to Red Gate from the second row. It's reigning champion Neil Mackenzie. First time he's led a race this year, and he's doing it in the final round here at a soaking wet Donington Park. Sweeping down through Craner curves, everybody on wet, or at the very least intermediate tyres. Neil Mackenzie leads. Chris Walker is trailing third place, and in second, it's Neil Hodgson, number 25. But Walker, who came here 29 points behind Troy Bayliss, knows that he needs a win here to grab the 25 points that will be so vital going into the final race. But it's Bayliss's teammate, Neil Hodgson, in second place. Race leader number 1, Neil Mackenzie. Up to second goes Chris Walker, now sitting on the 20-point position. Up to third goes Mackenzie's teammate, number 11, Steve Hislop, who electrified everyone at Brands Hatch with a pole position qualifying spot. It's his third race, or third round, shall I say, on the Yamaha, and he is doing an admirable job. But race leader now, Chris Walker, has gone past Neil Mackenzie up to the newly named Foggy's S's. The two Yamahas riding line astern. Mackenzie number 1 in second, Hislop number 11 in third. Then it's Neil Hodgson, number 25 on the Ducati, being dropped away just a little bit. Where is Bayliss? Where is Reynolds? They had dreadful starts. Roger, look at Mackenzie.
Well, the riders are now feeling their way around. It's early stages in the race and they haven't had any wet practice. The track's been damp during qualifying, but not full wet situation. The riders are using full wet tyres for this race, and this is the first time all weekend that they'll have had them on. Feeling the way around a bit, Mackenzie and Hislop dicing a little bit, nudging each other as they come round Goddard's onto the start and finish for the first time. And you saw Hislop get a twitch then. We're going to see a few of those. But these conditions are certainly playing into the hands of the man at the front, number 2, Chris Walker. He's known as a wet weather rider. Neil Mackenzie, 1. Steve Hislop on bike number 11 aren't known as wet weather riders, but they're up there at the front. But I just saw Emmett coming into the picture, but still no sign of Bayliss or Reynolds.
In 5th place, it's Shane Byrne on the number 3 Kawasaki, doing an absolutely fantastic job. Shane Byrne has ridden the House Kawasaki earlier in the season, and the battle for 2nd and 3rd place between the two Yamaha men, reminiscent of the battles we saw between Mackenzie and Hislop at the tail end of the 1998 season. In 4th place, it's still Hodgson. He is well aware that his teammate, number 32, Troy Bayliss, somewhere behind him, and I suspect Neil Hodgson doesn't know exactly where behind him, is in with a chance now, and in fact needs to get past him to lift the championship, because his main threat, or one of the two main threats in this race, Chris Walker, is leading. Chris Walker's on 25 points, but somebody's down. That's Brett Sampson, one of the privateers, and one of the Hawk Kawasaki's, that's Gordon Blackley. Number 23, Gordon Blackley, teammate to reigning privateer champion Phil Giles. There's Bayliss. Bayliss going past Hodgson, who I suspect made room for him going into the Foggy's S's. Bayliss number 32 then, up 1 place. He is now in 4th. Down to 5th goes Hodgson. Ahead of Bayliss is this man who's leading the race, Chris Walker. Number 11, Steve Hislop, and another faller, that's Chris Wilson. Chris Wilson dumping the number 34 Honda. The rider okay, but he went a long way on the wet grass, Roger, and that's what happens.
Well, that's just what happens, but this is the interesting thing, because we saw team orders before at Brands Hatch in the previous event, but Bayliss on bike number 32 is ahead of Neil Hodgson on bike number 25 as they round the old hairpin in 3rd gear, feeling the way now round. Oh, and Bayliss nearly off, and it only needs Bayliss to fall off, and Walker or Reynolds can lift the championship.
That's how close it is, and this is how close it is with Emmett. Emmett brings down Hodgson. They collided. Sean Emmett, number 7, was oh so keen to get past Neil Hodgson. The two Ducati men made contact. Oh, there's a bit of aggression here. Hodgson and Emmett shaping up to each other. Won't do a lot of good. He's got crash helmets on. You'll only break your knuckles if you do that. All being led away and consoled. So a bit of adrenaline charging out of Neil Hodgson's system there, and similarly Sean Emmett. But as they say, Roger, that's racing, but we have the pace car on the track.
Well, presumably the pace cars come out because of that incident between Emmett and Hodgson round at McLean's corner. And we see it here again on replay, and Hodgson doesn't have any vision at all of Emmett, and Emmett seems to have committed himself to the corner and into the back of Neil Hodgson. He almost got away with it, but the Ducati of Emmett's hooked itself on the seat of Neil Hodgson and fetched them both down, and that's one of those things that happens in racing, I'm afraid.
And that's a great pity, because Hodgson was sitting in 4th place in the championship, and both he and Sean Emmett had a job to do protecting the interests of Troy Bayliss and John Reynolds, their respective teammates. However, tyres being warmed up. The pace car coming off this time, leaving the circuit. The race is back on. Green flag situation. So, away they go again after one lap of the pace car. Chris Walker leads. So they have to line up, of course, in exactly the same positions. No overtaking is permitted under the control of the pace car. But what it does do, of course, is have the effect of closing everyone up. So those huge buffers we saw opening up have been reduced to this sort of situation. And that is why Superbike racing benefits, I think, from the pace car situation. It gives everybody a second bite of the cherry. And really going for it, Mackenzie and Hislop, the Yamaha boys. There's Reynolds, number 4, rocketing past Troy Bayliss. So Reynolds has passed Bayliss. Bayliss now knows that his two adversaries, John Reynolds and Chris Walker, the men who came here 23 and 29 points behind him respectively, are now clawing back that points advantage. He has got to, at the very least, stay with them. But Chris Walker, the wet weather specialist, as Roger Burnett said earlier, is on the crest of a wave here. Look at the spray being pushed out from those full wet rear tyres. Makes it difficult, not just on the track, but presumably on the visor.
Also, you can get mist on the inside of your visor, condensation on the inside of your visor, causing difficult visibility. The riders and Hislop go straight on at the S's, and that's a mistake at the new Foggy's S's from Steve Hislop. You won't be too happy with that. In Barry Sheen's days, you rubbed soap solution on the inside of your visor, but now the visors are manufactured with an anti-fog repellent.
Back at the Melbourne Loop, there's a very clear dry line appearing, and that will pose bigger problems for the riders. It's less predictable, of course, than an all-wet situation. Number 4, John Reynolds, with water spewing from the tyres, and that's a faller. That's one of the privateers. That looks to be like Malcolm Ashley. Rider perfectly okay. Bike sliding out of the action, but the race at the front is fast and furious. It's Chris Walker in second place. It's reigning champion coming home in style in this penultimate race. Neil Mackenzie, number 1, having a look at Chris Walker as they come under the bridge and over the drop on the fastest part of the circuit. 160 in the dry, will be there. Privateer race leader Paul Young on his way to lifting the championship possibly, and a massive rear end slide from Young. Right behind him, number 21, Phil Giles, the reigning champion, also in with a possibility of retaining the title. And great stuff from these two, and what a privateer championship it's been.
It's been a brilliant privateer championship, but we're now on the last lap, and this man at the front, Chris Walker, who's led from the front, is now shadowed by Neil Mackenzie. An absolutely outstanding ride this from Mackenzie. I don't think anybody would have expected Mackenzie to run at the front, especially with Chris Walker.
This has really set the finale up now. Walker will grab 25 points here. Troy Bayliss running at the moment in 5th place. Reynolds is in 3rd. Mackenzie, number 1, is in the runner-up spot at the moment. Can he? This is a privateer battle. It's number 96, Paul Young. Behind him, Phil Giles, who is desperate to get in front. Too desperate to get in front, Phil Giles. He dumps it at the old hairpin, and with it, I guess, any chance of retaining the title that he lifted in 1998. Chris Walker, though, at Goddard's for the last time. The crowd's favourite, Chris Walker, the Kawasaki kid, heading Neil Mackenzie home. A wonderful win for Chris Walker, 25 points. Where's Bayliss? Reynolds gets 3rd. John Reynolds in 3rd place. Walker beat Mackenzie over the line. Where is Troy Bayliss? He was in 5th last time round. Reynolds got 3rd, but there's your race winner, Chris Walker. Confirmation of that result. Steve Hislop was 4th, Reynolds got 3rd, and amazingly, Shane Byrne pushed the championship leader Bayliss down to 6th place, and Bayliss only lifts 10 points table. And round 24, the final race in the 1999 Motorcycle News British Superbike Championship. 18 laps gets underway, and 2 Ducatis are at the front. No, they're not. It's Chris Walker on the number 2 Kawasaki, round the outside. Looking back for race leader now, Troy Bayliss, and champion designate Troy Bayliss leading Chris Walker. The rear view from the Ducati, that tiny camera mounted up between the 2 booming exhaust pipes. Walker going at the old hairpin up the inside. Hislop has had a cracking start as well, number 11 on the Yamaha. Steve Hislop in 3rd, but Bayliss leads under Starkey's, round Schwantz, up towards McLean's. The Australian Troy Bayliss making no mistake this time. The track is totally dry. We expect to see record race speed here. This is going to be a shootout. Any one of 3 men can lift the title in this final race. Troy Bayliss, though, knows full well that he's got to deliver the goods here. He leads the race. Walker in 2nd, number 2. Up now under the bridge, the fastest part of the circuit. Chris Walker's on the inside of Foggy's S's. So is Hislop. They both go underneath Bayliss. Hodgson looking and protecting the tail end of his teammate. Kawasaki leads, Yamaha in 2nd, down towards the Melbourne hairpin. This is one terrific race.
Hodgson now coming up to the back of Bayliss, and Reynolds is trying up the inside of Hodgson and almost takes him out. They push very, very wide there, and Emmett also on bike number 7 got ahead of Hodgson. So now there's a gap between the back of Bayliss up to John Reynolds, and Chris Walker now going very, very wide indeed, and Hislop almost coming up the inside of him. Now the riders are finding it difficult to judge their braking because the earlier race was wet, now it's dry, it's fast and furious out there, and a few mistakes are being made.
We're going to see some sparks fly in this race because, as I've said before, any one of 3 men can lift the title in this race. 17 points John Reynolds trails Troy Bayliss by, but only 14 points is the gap between Walker and Bayliss, and Walker leads this race. Steve Hislop, number 11 in 3rd place, is having a terrific ride, and he's a strange character, Hislop. What I mean is, he is very up and down. When he's riding well, he is absolutely brilliant. It's only his 3rd meeting on that Yamaha, and when he's teamed up with Mackenzie, he seems to be at his very best. Look how hard he's pushing. 11 times a TT winner, Steve Hislop. That's why he carries the number 11 on the bike. He's in 3rd place. He's doing no good at all to John Reynolds' championship chances. We're riding with Reynolds. He's in 4th place. He's got to force his way past the Yamaha of Hislop, and he does. He's on the inside, up towards Foggy's. Is it Reynolds for 3rd? Yes, it is. Into 3rd goes John Reynolds. So the men at the front of this race are the 3 men at the front of the championship. But Chris Walker is on for 25 points. If things stay the way they are, Troy Bayliss will lift the title. What Reynolds has to do is get past Bayliss, of course. He then must hope that possibly Hislop can push Bayliss further back down the points. That will, of course, then give the championship to Walker. It's all speculation. Meanwhile, there is a ding-dong battle with no less than 6 men locked in a tooth-and-nail struggle.
All of the riders out there are riding very aggressively. Some have got things to lose, some haven't. Of course, Walker, Bayliss and Reynolds have to finish this race as Hodgson dived up the inside of Hislop there, pushing Hislop wide. So now Hodgson's coming up to join the party. I know before this race for a fact that the team manager for the GSE team told Hodgson that he could go out and win it. I think they were expecting to take the full 25 points away from the guys at the front, but Hodgson at the moment struggling down in 4th place.
Well, there were 6. There are now 7 men locked in a battle, and a terrific scrap going on between number 7, Sean Emmett, and 11, Steve Hislop. The Yamaha against the Ducati. At McLean's, tucking it tight, Steve Hislop. Emmett went very wide there. Hislop exited the corner almost on the curve. Walker, Reynolds, Bayliss. There's Emmett, of course. In front of Emmett is Neil Hodgson and Steve Hislop. Right behind him is Neil Mackenzie, reigning champion number 1, so they're all closing up. That's the big Suzuki of John Crockford. He and Damien Bailey have shared that bike all season. It's expired. I'm just wondering, has it dumped any oil? It's certainly blown up on one cylinder, a lot of smoke. John Reynolds then. Who's in front of John Reynolds? I can tell you it's Chris Walker, because John Reynolds at the Melbourne hairpin dives inside and holds the line from Chris Walker. Will the Ducati punch out? I guess it will. Walker's good though. Side by side they go. Walker now in 2nd place. Reynolds is on for 25 points. At Goddard's, knee on the tarmac, driving hard out of here. 3rd, 4th, 5th gear at the end of the pit lane. Troy Bayliss in 3rd place now, tucking in the back and protecting his rear end, number 25. In 4th, Neil Hodgson. At Redgate, Reynolds leads. John Reynolds and, of course, Chris Walker, local men from Nottingham, know Donington Park intimately. By contrast, Troy Bayliss, not having been here, of course, that often. He rode here for the first time last year. Walker through, making John Reynolds sit up at the old hairpin. Chris Walker back into the lead in a very aggressive way.
Well, I think a bit too aggressive. I don't think John will be too pleased with that. John wasn't too happy after the first race today because he chose the wrong wet tyre. I was up on the rear and, oh dear, John's down. That must have been oil because that's definitely at McLean's corner. That's Reynolds off at McLean's corner.
That must be oil on the circuit left by that, and that's Hislop's! That's Hislop's bike as well! So Steve Hislop came down. I didn't see Hislop come down. Obviously, he fell at the same point. Maybe he made contact with John Reynolds, who's very disgruntled and is keen to get back on with the action. The race is stopped, red flag situation. Oil at McLean's. Looking back from Bayliss, this is what happened.
Well, you can see in the background that Steve Hislop loses control. That's on oil, and the rider's now got to turn right into McLean's corner. That is the view from Bayliss's bike, and that's what happened to John Reynolds. The front end just slid away, and he gracefully went to the side of the track. Luckily, John isn't hurt at all, and this is a view of Hislop's bike almost taking out teammate Neil Mackenzie, and Mackenzie would have seen that bike bouncing out the corner of his right eye, and I'm sure that he's pleased to get out of the way of it.
Both Steve Hislop, you can see in the pit there, and John Reynolds made it back to the pits none the worse. They're out on their spare bikes, which is not necessarily good news for Steve Hislop, because his spare bike is not up to scratch. In other words, it has a manual gear change as opposed to an electronic shift. They line up for the restart in the positions in which they were on the last lap prior to the stoppage. So that means Walker is on pole position, alongside him Reynolds, then it's Bayliss, then it's Neil Hodgson. How have they got away? Well, I can tell you it's Chris Walker, but look at Troy Bayliss on the inside this time, determined to really make no mistakes in this, the final race that he sincerely hopes the final start of the 1999 Motorcycle News British Superbike Championship season. Neil Hodgson really working team orders to the ultimate there, backing off, letting Bayliss through. Bayliss into second. Hodgson will protect him if at all possible this time. He knows the championship is at stake. Walker is absolutely romping away. Hodgson just making it look as though Bayliss is possibly holding him up. Bayliss, of course, will be riding for points here. He'll be riding for the finish. Two men taking to the gravel. James Hayden, number 8, and Neil Mackenzie. Whether there was contact or not, I have no idea, but they are both anxious to get back on track, get their heads down, and gather, hopefully, some points. Walker leads, number 2. Hodgson in second place then, yes he is, up to second, and 20 points goes Neil Hodgson. Bayliss in third. Reynolds is there charging hard behind Troy Bayliss, and through the foggy S's they go. Sean Emmett looking after John Reynolds. Team tactics might come into play. All Bayliss has to do though is keep his nose clean.
Bayliss has got to obviously finish. All 3 riders have got to finish. They're in the championship hunt. Reynolds there, bike number 4. Sean Emmett on bike number 7. Reynolds is a determined little character. Look at him. Throwing the bike left-handed into Goddard's there. He knows this Donington Park circuit exceptionally well. And this restart is only over 13 laps, so something of a sprint race this for the guys.
At Redgate, up to the lead goes Neil Hodgson past Chris Walker. This is significant. OK, Hodgson's in front of his teammate, but he's also taken 5 points off Chris Walker. That will help Troy Bayliss immensely. Hodgson has got his head down and he's going away here. You heard Roger Burnett say that team manager Darrell Healy said if you want the win, go for it, go and take it. It would appear that Neil Hodgson is following that to the letter. He's away. Walker's in second. Bayliss is in third. John Reynolds, very, very determined. He knows what he's got to do. He's got to get past both Walker and Bayliss, and he's tucked in now. Number 4, John Reynolds. 4 on the bike. 4th in the race. So look over the shoulder to make sure all is well behind. Who's behind? Number 7, Sean Emmett. Also, Shane Byrne riding very, very well in this race. And he's done a great job, Shane Byrne. Maybe one of the names we'll see riding in the future in this championship on factory machinery. But looking now on the inside of Chris Walker, Bayliss was making a move. We're watching John Reynolds. Bayliss staying ahead of John Reynolds. Walker still in second place. Away they go. It's a 13-lap sprint race, as Roger said, down towards the Melbourne hairpin, and everything to play for here. Troy Bayliss cannot be cautious. He only knows one way to ride, and that's flat out, and he's giving the crowd something to shout about. Their favourite, Chris Walker, number 2, also on with a chance for the championship, but it's between these two. Bayliss at Goddard's goes through underneath Chris Walker. A wonderfully clean move, and he has gone ahead. So it's now the GSE Ducatis, numbers 25 and 32 in first and second. Then it's the number 2 factory Kawasaki of Chris Walker in third. Then it's the Revy Racing Ducati number 4 of John Reynolds in fourth. The championship is at the front. It's in the hands of these 4 riders at the front. And we're looking back from second place, Troy Bayliss, the fastest part of the circuit, 160 miles an hour down through Craner to the old hairpin. And Walker has gone on the inside. Then neck and neck up towards Starkey's. Walker's back in second. He is so quick through there. Round Schwantz, the right-hander of McLean's, is next, and Walker is back in second place. He now must hope and trust and pray that John Reynolds can also get past Bayliss, but Reynolds doesn't need any urging. He knows what he wants to do. There are coppice over the crest of the Blind Hill, the double apex coppice. Well, then fire it up the straight, 160 miles an hour as they go under the bridge, and that Ducati is oh so fast, but it's equally matched by Troy Bayliss. On the inside, Reynolds has done it. What an unbelievable race.
Well, this is the shootout that we hope for. The 3 guys that can win the championship all together on the track during the closing stages of this final race of the 1999 calendar. Walker looking aggressive, Reynolds looking aggressive, and Bayliss, as you quite rightly say, Barry, not just riding round for points.
His teammate Neil Hodgson out there in the lead with 25 points has stolen those 5 points from Chris Walker. Walker now coming into this race, 16 rostrums and 3 wins. What an unbelievable season the Kawasaki kid has had. Colin Wright, the GSE team boss, saying cool it. Privateer champion designate Paul Young, number 96, on the R7 Yamaha. Looking pretty cool this time. He's just riding for the finish, and he's still nursing the shoulder injury from that horrendous crash at Alton Park mid-season. There's Young, 96. Third place in the privateer race. Ahead of him, David Heel and Phil Giles, number 21. Back at the front, it's Chris Walker and John Reynolds. What a terrific ride they're having there in second and third place on the last lap. Spriggates Reynolds alongside. The fastest part of the circuit. Reynolds then on the right, Walker on the left, turning into Foggy's S's. Walker, lock wheel, they're down, they're both down. Reynolds is hooked up on Walker's Kawasaki. Not sure what happened there. Chris Walker appeared to have some problem stopping and turning in. Reynolds was committed, he turned in, there was contact, that's put them both out of the action. That will have promoted Sean Emmett and Bayliss significantly and taken any chance that Walker had and Reynolds had of winning the championship. Neil Hodgson, number 25, a spectacular wheelie gets the win. What a showman Neil Hodgson is. He won the last race of the championship and he won the first race at Brands Hatch. Walker's remounted. He'll get some points. Where's Reynolds? There's Bayliss, the new champion Troy Bayliss. The glee is evident for all to see in the GSE camp. And Bayliss, the 1999 champion, to do a burnout, treading it all the way to top gear. So if that bike were moving forward, it'd be doing 150 miles an hour, but instead of that, it's destroying the rear tyre. What an unbelievable result, and the championship win for Troy Bayliss. Drama right up to the last bend here at Donington Park, but Troy Bayliss's nerve held. The emotion he must be feeling is one of immense relief. And I wonder just what's going through Neil Mackenzie's mind as he hands his championship to Troy Bayliss. John Reynolds, well, the body language says it all. What more could I do? But thanks for supporting me. A terrific season from JR, but he'll be back. There's confirmation. Hodgson took the win. Bayliss, Emmett got third, and Marty Craggill, that's the best result that he's had this season. His slot fifth. Shane Byrne got ahead of Mackenzie and James Hayden. But it was a mutual coming together between John Reynolds and Chris Walker that effectively ruled them both out of the championship, but a terrifically sporting gesture from Chris Walker, giving his neighbour and friend Reynolds a lift back to the paddock. The day, however, here at Donington Park belongs to Troy Bayliss.
Troy, Motorcycle News, British Superbike Championship, winner 1999. How does it feel?
Yeah, I'm really happy for myself and the team and everyone. Bad luck to John and Chris are having a really good race, and shame for them, lad, but you know, I've been working really hard for this. No one would believe how hard I've been training for it, and I'm glad it's turned out good.
Will you be celebrating tonight?
I reckon I'll have a couple. Yeah, cheers. All right, thanks.
Neil, you've left it until the last race to win again. You won the first one, you won the last one. A fantastic result.
Yeah, it was superb. Just before the start, Daryl Healy, the team manager, came up to me and said, go out and win it. And he looked me straight in the eyes, and I looked at back and said, I'm going to do it. And I had such a determined feeling inside. I knew if I could get into the lead, I thought I could pull away, and thankfully that's what I did, and I'm over the moon.
Sean, you said you were going to go for it today, and go for it you have. It's been a good series for you, some good race wins, and some good consistent performances. Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, absolutely, it's fantastic. The lap times are, just unbelievable. So close to the World Championship. It really is a mini World Championship, and I love it. Yeah, it's been great.
Well, this series has attracted the interest of sponsors and teams from all over the world, and Troy Bayliss, the new champion, lifted it there, 394 points. Everyone rode brilliantly. Neil Mackenzie got his Yamaha sorted later in the year, but he finished 7th. The privateer title goes to Paul Young, but it was a close thing.
Paul, privateer champion, how does it feel?
It feels a great relief.
Is that all you're going to say? Great relief?
Yeah, it's quite nice. Quite nice to be champion.
And what about next year? Moving into the series proper, the factory bike job?
I want to crack at the real one.
Well, I think any one of those top 3 men in the table are entitled to a works ride, because Dave Hill and Phil Giles ran him all the way to the wire for that championship. For Paul Young, it was a great privateer series, as indeed the main factory championship, a terrific championship win for Troy Bayliss. I fail to see how this series can get better. But of course, in the year 2000, with increased interest from the factories and even more top-line riders, anything can happen.